Joining me live now is the Assistant Trade Minister, Tim Ayres. Tim, a lot to unpack there with our chat with Bob Carr. He didn't want to be ambassador after being the Premier. Thought it was probably not going to pique his interest as much as he would like. But what do you think about what he says about Joe Biden? I mean, he can be honest. He's unshackled because he doesn't have the pressure of being in office currently. But he's saying what a lot of you are thinking, I reckon.
Well, he's always an interesting bloke to listen to, Bob. He's really deeply engaged, has been for his whole political life, interested in foreign affairs, interested in American politics. You know, what I would say about all of this is what I've observed of President Biden's interactions publicly, but also with Prime Minister Albanese and others, is he is active, engaged, focused on the region. It's a useful American initiative, the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework Agreement, an area that is closer to my portfolio area. He is a very active president. Now, you know, there are some challenges in the American political system. It is evolved. It is different. You know, some of those polarisations are obvious for everyone to see, but I know that that all of the Australian leaders who've engaged with President Biden, particularly Prime Minister Albanese, have valued and welcomed that engagement and that relationship. And you can see there is some real chemistry between, you know, the Prime Minister and the President that is useful in the relationship.
Okay, well, let's talk about something a little closer to your portfolio now. An article in The Australian today, extraordinary really, that China's trying to make their own Australian-made lobsters. One, how does that work? And President Xi has said it's about making China more resilient in a hostile world.
Well, it's a hell of a segue, Laura, from the President of the United States to sort of what appear to be, you know, some form of crustacean if you follow the article. Look, it's really clear that one of the consequences of impediments being put in front of Australian exports to China has been it's created problems for consumers, and particularly, you know, Australian lobsters are very highly prized in China.
What are they actually trying to do here? They're trying to grow their own lobsters and call them Australian? Surely you've got a problem with that.
I read the article. I'm not sure of its provenance. But the thing we've got to do here is unwind these trade impediments. You know, Chinese consumers know that authentic Australian lobsters are the best Australian lobsters, the only Australian lobsters.
Do they know that? And how do you know they know that? Well, because if they're being marketed as Australian lobsters and they're not.
The market for Australian lobsters has been very strong.
Damaging for our industry, though, couldn't
it? Well, let's see. The first thing to do is unwind these trade impediments. That's what the government's been focused on. And, of course, in every market that we're in, making sure that there's not, you know, fake replicas of Australian products is absolutely a focus of the trade
Just finally, before we've got to wrap this up, Don Farrell, before he went to China last week, was pretty optimistic, you know, briefing out that he thinks these sanctions will be lifted by the end of the year and that our relationship will be back on track. He went to China and he had a very different tone. So where are we at now? Well,
Don brings enthusiasm and drive and purpose to this project that we have in front of us.
Did he go to China and get a bit of a dose of reality that wasn't matching his optimism?
Oh, no, he's been completely focused on this. He is correctly applying pressure, making the arguments, doing it publicly, doing it privately. This is another useful step forward, having Australia's Trade Minister active in talks in Beijing. It follows a long series of careful, systematic, programmatic approaches to stabilising the relationship and removing the trade impediments. As Don says, you know, these impediments weren't imposed overnight. They won't be resolved overnight, but the government has been very, very focused on this task and will continue at official level and ministerial level to push this ahead.
Quickly, by the end of the year, do you think, or is it a longer time frame?
Well, the progress in this ultimately is going to be determined by how quickly the Chinese government resolves these trade impediments. We are going to keep making the argument. There are multiple strands to our approach, and we're going to continue to continue to push in the Australian national interest.
Okay, thanks for coming in.
Good on you, Laura.
Thank you.